Hello dear friend. Welcome to my audio storytelling channel. Comments number 1 if you are ready to dive into the story, and hit the like button if you are not ready to start. Sit back and join me on this emotional roller coaster. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter. Let's get started. It had been years since I last saw Aaron, my stepson. Life had taken us down different paths after my husband passed away. I tried to move on, as did he, but there were some things you can't just forget. I always remembered Aaron as a bright, quiet young man, barely 19 when we first met. He was introverted, not much of a talker, and often kept to himself. But even as a teenager, I saw a spark in him that drew me in, something powerful, mysterious. Now at 26, he stood before me much taller, his features sharper, and his demeanor far more confident. The boy who once avoided eye contact with me now held my gaze with intensity. And yet, despite the years, some things hadn't changed. His presence still had an effect on me, a pull I couldn't explain. "Hi, Sarah," he said, his voice low but warm. "It's been a long time." I struggled to find my words. "Yes, it has," I replied, my heart racing a bit more than I was comfortable with. As I stood there, taking in his appearance, I couldn't help but notice how he had grown into a man. Strong, confident, and undeniably attractive. There was something about him now that made my heart flutter in a way I wasn't prepared for. But I pushed the thought aside. This was my stepson after all. The line between familial love and something else was one I could never cross. But Aaron wasn't here for a casual visit. He needed help. He had come to me for something important, something I wasn't ready to hear. The air between us was heavy with unspoken words, and I felt my pulse quicken as he stepped closer, almost as if he knew how uncomfortable his presence made me. "I was hoping we could talk about something. About my father's estate. I need your help," he said, his eyes searching mine, though I felt there was more behind his request than just legal matters. I nodded, not sure how to respond. "Of course. Come in. We can discuss it." As he stepped inside, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a conversation about paperwork. The tension between us was palpable, and as he walked past me, I caught a whiff of his cologne. A subtle mix of cedarwood and musk that made my breath catch. I tried to ignore the strange fluttering in my chest, but it was there, gnawing at me. This wasn't just any ordinary reunion. This was the beginning of something I couldn't quite understand yet, but something told me it was going to change everything. We sat across from each other in the living room, the faint sound of the clock ticking in the background as Aaron explained the situation with his father's estate. He spoke with an air of professionalism, but I couldn't ignore how his presence seemed to fill the room, making it harder for me to focus on the matter at hand. The tension between us, though unspoken, was thick, like an invisible thread that kept pulling me closer to him. "So, I need your help with the paperwork, Mom," he said, his voice casual, though I could see the slight tension in his jaw. He'd always been like this, quiet but intense, like there was always something more beneath the surface. I nodded, trying to ignore the racing thoughts in my mind. "Of course, Aaron. I'll help however I can. You know that." My voice wavered slightly, betraying my calm demeanor. His gaze lingered on me for a moment longer than necessary, and my breath caught in my throat. I tried to maintain my composure, but the way he looked at me, like I was something more than just a mother figure, stirred something in me. Something forbidden. My heart began to race, but I quickly forced myself to push the feeling down. This was wrong. He was my stepson. "Thanks, Mom," Aaron said, his voice softer now, the gratitude in his words making the air between us feel even more charged. "I really appreciate it." The word appreciate echoed in my mind, and before I could respond, he reached forward to place his hand on mine. Just a gentle touch, but it sent a jolt of electricity through me. I quickly pulled my hand away, my skin tingling where his fingers had just been. It wasn't like him to be so forward. Was he trying to make me feel something? The room felt too small, and I suddenly felt suffocated by the growing distance between what was right and what was undeniably pulling at me. Aaron was no longer that shy teenager who couldn't look me in the eye. He was a man, and in that moment I saw him as one. His touch, his words, everything about him felt so much more intimate now. "I think I need a moment," I said quickly, standing up and turning toward the window, trying to calm my racing heart. "Let me get the paperwork ready, and we can go over it." I heard Aaron shift in his seat, his voice slightly strained when he spoke. "Yeah, sure. I'll just wait here." As I walked away, I couldn't stop the thoughts from swirling in my head. What was happening between us? Was it just my imagination? Or was there something real brewing? And why couldn't I stop the pull I felt toward him? I shouldn't be feeling this way. I stood by the window, my hands resting on the cool glass as I tried to calm myself. The quiet outside did little to settle the storm brewing inside me. How had things become like this? I never expected a simple visit from Aaron to stir such feelings, especially not after all this time. Yet, the moment he touched my hand, everything I had been suppressing for years rushed to the surface, like a dam finally giving way. I heard Aaron shift in the other room, the sound of him moving around only increasing the tension I was trying to fight. Every part of me told me to stay calm, to push the emotions aside and focus on the task at hand. But how could I ignore the pull between us, the way his presence had become so intoxicating? "Are you okay?" Aaron's voice broke through my thoughts. It was soft, concerned, but there was something else in it. A subtle invitation and openness I hadn't expected. I turned slowly to face him, seeing the intensity in his eyes. He was no longer just the young man I had raised. He had become someone else entirely. Someone who made me question everything. My pulse quickened, but I forced a smile, trying to mask my confusion. "I'm fine," I said, though my voice wavered slightly. His gaze didn't leave mine, and for a moment, it felt as if the world had stopped moving. There was no time, no space between us. Just the overwhelming weight of the silence that stretched on. The room felt smaller, and I felt trapped by the emotions swirling inside me. Aaron stood up, moving closer without a word, and suddenly he was right in front of me, his presence overwhelming. I couldn't breathe. His eyes were fixed on mine, and I could see the conflict there just as much as I could feel it in myself. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. I should have stepped back, I knew that. This wasn't right. But instead I stood frozen, unable to move as I waited for him to say something. Anything. "Sarah," he finally whispered, his voice rough, like he was struggling with his own feelings. "There's something I need to tell you." The words hung in the air, thick with unspoken meaning. I swallowed hard, my heart racing in my chest. "What is it, Aaron?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached out, his hand gently brushing against my cheek, his touch warm and surprisingly tender. "I've been feeling this way for a long time," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I can't ignore it anymore." My breath hitched. He was confessing something I had already suspected but hadn't dared to acknowledge. His hand lingered on my face, and for the first time I felt completely exposed. He knew what I had been trying to hide, he felt it too. "I know this is wrong," he continued, his eyes searching mine for a response. "But I don't know how to stop it. I can't stop thinking about you." The words were like a punch to the gut. I wanted to say something, anything, to make this stop. To tell him this was wrong, that he couldn't feel this way. But all I could do was stand there, my heart pounding, my mind in chaos. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. The room felt suffocating. The air between us was thick with the weight of Aaron's confession, and my heart was hammering in my chest. His words echoed in my mind. "I can't stop thinking about you." And I couldn't shake them. My body trembled, a mixture of shock and something else stirring within me. Something I had buried for far too long. "I shouldn't have said that," Aaron said, his voice breaking the silence. He stepped back slightly, as though regretting his words, but there was no hiding the look in his eyes. He was searching for something. An answer, a sign, maybe even permission to continue down this dangerous path. I struggled to regain control of my thoughts, to push away the rush of emotions that were threatening to overwhelm me. "Aaron, we can't," I whispered, my voice shaking with the intensity of the moment. This isn't right." He took a deep breath and closed the distance between us, his eyes not leaving mine. "I know," he said, his voice soft but full of longing. "But I can't stop it. Every time I'm near you I feel it, this pull. And I know you feel it too. I've seen it, Sarah. I've felt it in the way you look at me, in the way your body responds when I'm close." My breath hitched and I felt my body betray me. I had tried so hard to push these feelings away, tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, but the truth was undeniable now. Aaron was right. The pull was there. An invisible force that drew us together, making it impossible to ignore. I opened my mouth to protest, but the words wouldn't come. My mind screamed at me to stop, to push him away, but my body, my heart were not listening. The way he looked at me, the way his voice broke through my defenses, it was too much to resist. Aaron, this is wrong. I finally managed to say, but my voice lacked conviction. How could I tell him this wasn't right when every fiber of my being was telling me otherwise? I don't care if it's wrong, he said, his voice raw with emotion. I can't keep pretending I don't want you. I've tried, but every time I see you, every time we're alone, I can't stop thinking about you. Don't tell me you don't feel the same way. I wanted to argue, to tell him this was madness, that nothing good could come from this. But the words got caught in my throat, and instead I found myself moving toward him, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. I wanted to push him away, but I was powerless against the force between us. Aaron reached out slowly, his hand trembling as he touched my face, his thumb brushing against my cheek. It was a soft, tender gesture, but it sent a jolt of electricity through me. I closed my eyes, my heart pounding in my chest, and for a moment, I was lost in the sensation of his touch. Sarah, he whispered, his voice barely audible. Tell me you don't feel this. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I opened my eyes and there it was, the raw, unspoken desire in his gaze. The same desire that mirrored my own. Before I could stop myself, I reached up and kissed him. It was tentative at first, just a brush of lips, but as soon as we touched, everything else faded away. There were no more doubts, no more guilt. Just the intensity of the moment, the overwhelming need to give in. But even as our kiss deepened, a part of me still screamed to stop. This wasn't who I was. This wasn't what I wanted. But it didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the overwhelming, undeniable connection between us. This story is about to take a turn. If you're intrigued, make sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications for more. Your support means the world. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment. The kiss lasted only a few moments, but it felt like a lifetime. When I pulled away, I was breathless, my body tingling with a mixture of excitement and shame. I couldn't look at Aaron, couldn't bear to face the truth of what had just happened. I had crossed a line and now there was no turning back. I stood there, frozen, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions coursing through me. My mind screamed at me to stop, to fix this before it spiraled out of control. But my heart wanted more. It had been too long since I felt desired, wanted. And Aaron, standing before me, made me feel things I hadn't felt in years. But that didn't make it right. Aaron, we can't do this, I said, my voice shaking with a mixture of guilt and confusion. This is wrong. It's not just about what we've done. It's about everything that comes after. The consequences. He didn't say anything at first. He stood still, his chest rising and falling with every breath, his eyes locked onto mine. And then slowly he stepped forward again, his gaze never leaving me. I know, he whispered, his voice full of pain. But I can't stop myself, Sarah. I can't pretend anymore. I've wanted this. Wanted you for so long. And I know you feel it too. I see it in your eyes. I feel it in the way your body reacts when I'm near you. My breath caught in my throat, and I felt the familiar stir of desire deep within me. How could I deny it? How could I deny the way my heart raced whenever he was close? The way my body seemed to come alive with every glance, every touch. I couldn't lie to myself any longer. I wanted him just as much as he wanted me. But that didn't change the fact that this was wrong. This was my stepson. I had raised him. I had been there for him in ways that a mother would be. And now here we were, crossing a line that would change everything between us. I'm so sorry, I said, my voice cracking as I looked away. I can't keep doing this to myself. We need to stop before we destroy everything. But Aaron wasn't listening. He reached for me, his hands gentle but firm as he cupped my face, turning me back to face him. We've already crossed that line, Sarah, he said softly, his thumb brushing against my lips. And you know it. I can see it in your eyes. You don't want to stop. You don't want this to end. I shook my head, tears welling up in my eyes. This is wrong. I whispered again, though my voice lacked conviction. I didn't want to stop. I couldn't stop, but I knew I had to. For a moment we just stood there, locked in an intense silent stare. The air around us was thick with emotion, desire, guilt, fear. It was as if the world outside didn't exist, and there was nothing but the two of us, trapped in this moment of unspoken truth. "Sarah," Aaron said, his voice raw and full of desperation, "I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to make this harder than it already is. But I need you to be honest with yourself. You feel this too. You know you do. You want this as much as I do." His words were a truth I couldn't deny. But admitting it meant I had to confront everything I was running from, the guilt, the shame, the consequences of our actions. I could no longer pretend that this was just a mistake, just a fleeting moment. This was real. This was happening. And I didn't know how to stop it. The quiet between us grew unbearable, the tension so thick it felt as if the walls themselves were closing in. My mind raced with 1,000 thoughts, each one conflicting with the other. This was wrong, but Aaron's presence was like a force I couldn't fight. My body responded to him in ways I couldn't control, and each passing second made it harder to think clearly. "I don't know what to do, Aaron," I whispered, my voice trembling as I took a step back, distancing myself from him. "I'm scared. Scared of what this means for us, scared of what it means for me. I've never felt so lost in my own life." Aaron didn't take a step back. Instead, he took a slow, deliberate step forward, his eyes filled with something I couldn't quite understand, fear, longing, but also a determination that scared me. "I don't want to scare you," he said softly, his voice a stark contrast to the storm swirling inside me. "But I don't think I can pretend anymore. Not with you. I've never felt more certain about something in my life." I shook my head, my chest tightening as I struggled to breathe. "I can't let this happen," I said, my voice cracking. "I can't let us go down this path, Aaron. This is a mistake, and we'll both regret it. You're my stepson, and I know what you're going to say." Aaron cut me off, his voice low and steady, his words laced with a quiet intensity. "But I don't care about all of that anymore. I care about you, Sarah. I can't stop wanting you." The weight of his words crashed into me, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. It was just Aaron and me standing there, caught between the raw emotion we were both trying to suppress. The room felt smaller, the air thicker, as if the very act of acknowledging our feelings made everything feel more real, more dangerous. "I can't keep living like this," I whispered, my voice barely audible, my hands trembling. "I can't keep pretending that nothing is happening, that I'm not feeling this pull toward you." Aaron took another step closer, his presence overwhelming. I could feel the heat of his body near mine, and for the first time I didn't pull away. It was like we were caught in a current we couldn't escape. "I don't want to pretend anymore either," he murmured, his voice raw. "But I can't stop. I've wanted you for so long, and now that you feel it too, I can't fight it. And I don't think you want to either." His words were a confession, an invitation, and I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes. I didn't know if I was crying because of the confusion, the guilt, or the overwhelming desire that was threatening to break through all the walls I had built for myself. "I don't know what I'm doing," I said through clenched teeth, my emotions spilling out. "I don't know how to stop this. How do I stop wanting you? How do I stop this thing between us?" Aaron's gaze softened, his eyes filled with a mixture of understanding and something deeper, something that made my heart ache with both desire and fear. "I don't want you to stop," he said quietly. "I don't want you to fight it. I want you to be with me." His words felt like a declaration, a final push toward the edge of a precipice I was afraid to fall from. But deep down I knew I was already falling. I was already too far gone. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to steady my breath, trying to push away the feelings I had no control over. But it was no use. In that moment I realized I wasn't fighting anymore. I was surrendering. And maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what I had been doing all along. The night passed in a blur, too fast, too chaotic, filled with the kind of passion I had never allowed myself to experience. The weight of the emotions that had consumed me had slowly settled into something else, something I was both terrified of and strangely grateful for. As the morning light filtered through the curtains, I opened my eyes, unsure of what to expect. I lay there for a moment, listening to the soft hum of the world outside, the noise of life continuing as it always had. But inside, everything was different. I could feel the shift in the air, the heavy, almost suffocating tension that had replaced the space between Aaron and me. I turned my head to see him lying beside me, his chest rising and falling with each steady breath. For a brief moment I allowed myself to forget everything, just the two of us lying there lost in a brief moment of peace. But that peace quickly evaporated as the reality of what had happened came crashing back. My heart skipped a beat as I realized what we had done, what I had allowed. This wasn't just a mistake, it was a decision. And now we had to live with it. Aaron stirred beside me, and my heart clenched as I watched him wake. His eyes met mine, and for a brief, fleeting moment, there was something in them, a quiet tenderness perhaps, but also the unmistakable recognition of what we had crossed, what we had shared. "Morning," he said softly, his voice hoarse from sleep, but there was no hesitation, no regret in his tone. He didn't seem to feel the weight of what had happened as heavily as I did. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words caught in my throat. What could I say? What could I possibly say to explain the magnitude of what we had done? "You okay?" he asked, his hand reaching out to gently touch mine. His touch was gentle, almost comforting, but it only made my guilt more pronounced. "I don't know," I whispered, my voice trembling. "I don't know if I can handle this, Aaron." He sat up slowly, propping himself up on his elbows, his eyes never leaving mine. "We don't have to figure it all out right now, Sarah. I don't regret it. I don't regret us." His words hit me hard. I wanted to push them away, to push him away, but I couldn't. I couldn't deny that I didn't regret it either. I had never felt more alive in my life, but at the same time, I had never felt so lost. "I don't know what this means for us," I said, my voice breaking slightly as I sat up beside him. "But I can't keep living in this in-between." Aaron took my hand, his grip firm but comforting. "We'll figure it out, Sarah. Together. I don't care what anyone else thinks. I just care about you." His words were both a promise and a challenge. The room seemed to close in around me as I realized there was no turning back from this. I had crossed the line, and now we had to live with the consequences. But could we? Would we be able to move forward? Or would this moment haunt us forever? For the first time since the night began, I felt a pang of fear. This wasn't just about desire anymore. It was about the consequences of what we had done, the consequences that would ripple through everything I thought I knew. I looked at Aaron, his expression filled with uncertainty and resolve. He was right. We couldn't figure it all out right now. But I knew that whatever happened next, we were bound together in a way I had never imagined. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and tension. Despite my attempts to avoid facing what had happened, every look, every word exchanged with Aaron only deepened the weight of our secret. It wasn't just about the physical connection anymore. It was about everything that had changed between us, and the uncertainty of what would happen next. We had avoided talking about it directly. The air between us was thick with unspoken words, and every time I tried to bring up what we had done, Aaron would change the subject, distracting me with something else, anything to avoid confronting the truth. But deep down, we both knew that the moment we shared wasn't something that could just be swept under the rug. One evening, a week after the incident, Aaron arrived at my house unannounced, holding a bottle of wine and a nervous smile. His eyes searched mine as I opened the door, and in that moment, I saw the same intensity in them as I had the night everything changed. "I think we need to talk," he said softly, his voice carrying the weight of something more serious than just a casual visit. I hesitated, my heart racing as I looked at him. "Aaron, I don't know if I can do this," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "We can't just pretend everything's normal. What happened between us, it's not something we can undo." He nodded, his expression serious, yet there was a trace of the same quiet determination in him that had been there before. "I know," he said, taking a step forward. "But I don't want you to feel like you have to run from this. I don't want to run anymore either." His words caused a ripple of uncertainty to pass through me. I had spent the last week fighting my feelings, trying to pretend that everything was fine, that nothing had changed. But now, as I looked at him, I realized that I couldn't escape it. Neither of us could. "I'm scared, Aaron," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I don't know what this means for us. I don't know if I can handle this. But I know I can't ignore it anymore either. Aaron reached out and gently took my hand, his touch grounding me in a way I hadn't expected. We don't have to figure it all out right now. But I know what I feel. And I can't pretend that I don't want more from this. From us. I took a deep breath, the weight of his words settling over me like a blanket of warmth and fear. I was terrified of what would happen if we continued down this path. But a part of me couldn't deny that I felt the same way. I had wanted this, whatever this was, since the moment I first saw him again. I had wanted him in a way I shouldn't have, but the desire was there, undeniable and unrelenting. I don't know if we can keep doing this, I whispered. I'm afraid we'll ruin everything we've built, everything we've known. Aaron's thumb brushed over my hand in a soothing gesture, and his gaze softened. Maybe we already have ruined something, he said quietly. But maybe we're building something new. Something different. For the first time since our night together, I allowed myself to truly consider the possibility that Aaron and I could move forward from this. Yes, there would be consequences. Yes, there would be a lot of things we would have to face. But maybe, just maybe, we could create something real, something that wasn't defined by the past or by fear. And in that moment, I realized that I was no longer afraid of what lay ahead. We had crossed a line, but it wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something new, something uncertain, yes, but also full of possibility. The story of Sarah and Aaron has been a journey of forbidden desire, guilt, and the consequences of the choices we make. It's a story that touches on the complexities of love, family, and the internal conflicts that can arise when lines are crossed. Their future is uncertain, but their connection is undeniable. If you found yourself captivated by this story, leave a comment below to share your thoughts. Do you think Sarah and Aaron will make it through the challenges ahead? Or is their love doomed from the start? What would you do in their situation? I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of the upcoming parts of this emotional journey. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most unexpected outcomes.